The seventh step of HACCP is the determination of critical control points, or CCPs. This is also the second HACCP principle. To identify critical control points, a team approach is best, since there's a considerable amount of discussion and science involved.
The HACCP decision tree is an essential tool to help you identify CCPs. CCPs are selected based on a hazard assessment and operational procedures. Remember, a critical control point is needed if there's any risk of illness or injury resulting from the failure of an operation to prevent or minimize contamination, kill microorganisms, or inhibit bacterial growth. The eighth step of HACCP is to establish critical limits for each critical control point, which is also the third principle of HACCP. Please note that from this point on, each HACCP step mentioned is also a corresponding principle of HACCP. To know more about the 7 principles of HACCP, please refer to Module 1. The most common parameters used for critical limits are time, temperature, water activity, pH, amount of preservatives, antibiotic residues, and microbiological and sensory information.
Critical limits are set to ensure control of health hazards. They can be based on government regulations, industry standards, company standards, and scientific data.
Make the criteria understandable and to the point, so there's no confusion among employees. Displaying the critical limits next to the critical control points is an excellent way to help employees identify when the process is out of control. This is usually done by detailing the critical limit on the CCP monitoring record.
It's vital to monitor your CCPs and record the data. And this is the 9th step to implementing HACCP, monitor critical control points. Once your control measures are in place and food safety criteria has been established, decide on effective monitoring procedures.
To ensure food safety, you must establish a monitoring schedule. Continuous monitoring using automated methods is best. Also, in some cases, regulations require continuous monitoring, such as using a chart recorder when pasteurizing milk. For batch processes, it may be necessary to monitor every batch of product or second batch in large volume production, where thousands of kilograms of products are produced in an hour, and depending on the CCP, it may be necessary to monitor every 5 minutes. Employees need to know why monitoring is necessary. They also need to be trained to conduct the testing, and they need to be shown what action to take if there is a deviation. Or in other words, when a critical limit has not been met. But we are getting ahead of ourselves here. Monitoring is best accomplished with quick, easy methods, so a problem can be identified and corrected immediately. Monitoring can include chemical measurements. Examples include measuring pH, residual chlorine, percentage of salt, and sugar concentration. Physical measurements include temperature and/or time, water activity, and metal detection.
Now, the 10th step to implementing HACCP is to establish corrective action or deviation procedures. When results show that critical limits aren't met, prompt corrective action must be taken.
The corrective action will depend on the potential hazards associated with the product. This might include increasing processing temperature, reheating or reprocessing, adjusting quantities of preservatives, stopping production, or holding product and investigating. To maximize your product safety, the right action is necessary to correct any deviations that happen.
Step 11 of setting up your HACCP system is to establish verification procedures. Once your HACCP system is in place, have it critically reviewed. This can be done by quality assurance personnel, corporate food safety, or outside consultants. There are several ways to verify a HACCP system. Examples of verification procedures include
checking monitoring records, observing operations at critical control points, checking calibration of monitoring instruments, analyzing and evaluating a product to confirm its safety, reviewing customer complaints for any allegations of foodborne illness and quality defects. And lastly, doing a statistical evaluation on monitoring data. Be sure to review your HACCP plan periodically to make sure it's working, and then make the changes indicated from your verification procedures.
The 12th and final step of HACCP is to establish a record-keeping system. So what should you be keeping records of?
Monitoring data, deviations, corrective action, and verification of results must be clearly recorded. Records must specify who recorded and verified the data. These records are important because they give you a product processing profile. They can be used to confirm that the process was in control, or the records can show you where any deviations need to be corrected.
So that's the big picture. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it.
Putting a HACCP system in place is smart business. Let's take a look at what those implementation steps are once again.
Step 1. Assemble your HACCP team. Step 2. Obtain product and processing information. Step 3. Describe the finished product and identify its intended use. Step 4. Construct a process flow diagram and plant schematic. Step 5. Check the process flow diagram and plant schematic for accuracy. Step 6. Identify and assess hazards. Step 7. Determine critical control points. Step 8. Establish critical limits for each critical control point. Step 9. Monitor critical control points. Step 10. Establish corrective action or deviation procedures. Step 11. Establish verification procedures. And Step 12. Establish a record-keeping system.
By putting HACCP in place, you'll have a system that will be the pride of the company, the security of your customers, and the envy of your competitors. The HACCP system not only keeps your business competitive, it keeps your customers safe.